how about findability? That's a good one. We think about that kind of thing a lot, don't we?
It's very much SEO related. It's a huge SEO component. Is your site findable on search engines, or is your social media page a bit findable? Are you using keywords and your business name in a way where people can find it easily? Is your business name catchy enough? Is it easy to remember? Also, if you're findable and you don't necessarily if people aren't looking for those words, in that same respect, is it also a desirable page? So if your page is findable and you're building it in a way where people can find it, that's great. But if you're also doing it in a way where you can find it, but people aren't necessarily looking for it, well, is that page still desirable? So in one example, and I won't actually say which keyword it is, so that we don't invite a bunch of competition, but Denver Data Web has one keyword. We rank #1 for it across the country. And it's on the surface, it sounds like a really, really great keyword to use. It is very, very findable. Our site is very findable with that keyword. However, I think it has like an average of 2 monthly searches for this keyword. So regardless of how great that keyword sounds and how relevant it sounds, it turns out it's not a very desirable keyword. So yes, it does add value to our site because we are ranking #1 for that word on a regular basis. But you do kind of have to have a give and take between being findable for the words that you want to, but then also being desirable using those keywords and those concepts that people actually want to look for.
And it sounds like there's kind of like multiple layers to like findability, right? So, you want your website to be found, and you also want people to find what they're looking for. So, I mean, if they're finding you with these keywords and then they end up on your website, they want to understand, the information they're looking for, or the piece of data that they're tracking down and you purportedly have based on what they saw in search results. So if, can people find that once they get there? Do they get the information do they need?
Oh, yep. If you're just blindly using keywords to get people to come to your page, and then once they're there, they can't find what they were looking for in the first place. Yeah, that also wraps into valuability.
Yeah, I mean, it has no value if you can't find it, right?
Exactly, yeah. Well, I mean, if you can find it, but when you get to the page, that keyword or that concept doesn't play out the way that the searcher wants it to, that's a big part. And I'm sure I can think of an example of when that might happen. Don't have one yet, but I'll come up with one.
I think a lot about information architecture. It's like a field of this kind of stuff, information science and web development, all user experience that I've delved into a lot over my career. I really enjoy it. Information architecture in a nutshell, in layman's terms, is really just thinking about how you structure and create hierarchies around information, the way that it's put together in a system so that people can find or use that information. And when you think of like a website and how kind of design patterns have changed over the years and user experience, it's interesting to me because initially years ago there's kind of more this pattern where you have these very extensive navigation link lists on, let's say, on the left side or right side of a page, the sidebar, right? It's not as common at all used today, right? You got mega menus, big navigation bars and super highly nested menu structures, the big fat footers at the bottom with links, like recopying everything. And then, search-based navigation, just search, find what you're looking for, pull it up. Faceted search, you can kind of search based on like a hybrid approach with like the navigation on the left, but you can kind of, choose your adventure is what I always say is, break it down, if you're on Best Buy looking for some kind of product, it's like products by IBM, computers by IBM, computers of certain cost range, by, faceted search. That's what I mean by that. You see it a lot on Amazon. So there's all these different patterns for information architecture and finding what information people are looking for over the years. And it all matters. One of the things I get is, how are you making it so people can find what they're looking for? Because if they can't, they get frustrated pretty fast. And that's It's something we all do on a daily basis now. Find the answer, you search for it. On Google or Bing or wherever, and then you get to the website, and then you just hopefully this website's going to answer my question if it's not already answered by Google with their rich snippets right in the search results, their featured questions. And you get there, having such a lengthy career in web development is something all web developers, programmers do, is you search for something, an error code or how to do this, how to do that, and so much time is spent not getting the answer.
And I guess a very, very an example that's very extremely current right now is searching for vaccinations online. Everybody wants to get, well, not everyone, but most people, I would hope, want to be vaccinated at this point in time. So if you search that online and you're seeing an overwhelming amount of search results, and half the ones you go to don't give you that information that you need to. I want to be vaccinated. I want to make an appointment to be vaccinated. And when you get there, you're finding information about vaccinations, people's theories on vaccinations. You're finding all this different information, but actually finding what you're looking for can sometimes be very frustrating. And I know that in a lot of my friends' cases, they have actually gone down that road and then given up. And I keep hearing about that quite a bit lately. So that's another thing where if you have a page and you are trying to rank for those terms and you're not delivering on what those terms would suggest or what the content would suggest, that's a big, big piece of that. Hi, this is Sarah from Denver Data Web. Thanks for watching. Please like our video and subscribe for future digital strategy chats. You can also visit our website at denverdata.com or find us on social media at Denver Data Web.